Sorry, I actually cut off my last video accidentally, so I'm just adding a second part. From an elevation of 3.5 meters below the surface of the water, the northern bottlenose whale dives at a rate of 1.8 meters per second. Write a rule that gives the whale's depth d as a function of time in minutes. Now, you might get a different function rule depending on how you define the problem. So when we talk about an elevation of 3.5 meters below the surface of the water, that means that our depth is actually negative 3.5 meters. And as the whale dives, this elevation is going to continue to be negative. It's going to go down further and further. The rate at which the bottlenose whale is diving is given at 1.8 meters per second. Now, that's actually a distance that it's traveling down. So if we use the elevation as a negative number, we would also have to use the rate as a negative number because the elevation is decreasing. Write a rule that gives the whale's depth d as a function of time in minutes. So if we're working with the elevation under the water being a negative number, we can say that we're starting at negative 3.5 meters. And then we're going down at 1.8 meters per second. So that means every second the whale is dropping 1.8 meters. So we would need to multiply the 1.8 by s, the number of seconds. Oh, but actually I'm seeing time in minutes. I wouldn't do the problem that way without converting. We're going to have to convert that rate. I don't know if that's what was really intended in the problem, but it's what's required as written. So if I have 1.8 meters per second, we know that there are 60 seconds in 1 minute. So we've got to convert that. Taking 1.8 and multiplying that by 60 seconds, we get 108 meters per minute. So I'm going to switch that variable of s to m because it's asking in minutes. So m equals the number of minutes. And I need to switch the 1.8 to 108 because we're being asked to work with minutes instead of seconds. So we actually had to change the rate. And that's going to give us the depth, where depth is defined as how deep you are below the water. So your elevation would always be a negative amount. If someone interpreted the problem a little bit differently, they might have thought of the elevation as being a positive amount, just what is your distance below the surface of the water, in which case they could also use the rate as a positive amount. So if somebody interpreted it in that way, and they said d equals 3.5 plus 108 times the number of minutes, that would also be a reasonable function rule.